Привет!
Hello! This video is sponsored by the Great Courses Plus. More about that later. Welcome to North Korea versus USA. This time the question is, what options does the US have in dealing with North Korea through an armed conflict? If US is faced with no help from its allies whatsoever, including both South Korea and Japan, it would be limited in options. Without their loaned bases, America would have to rely on its bases in Guam and on Wake Island. They are both too far away for using numerous tactical combat aircraft. They could, however, be used as launching points for bomber aircraft. Thus, the US Navy would have to do a lion's share of work. A good thing for the US in such a scenario would be North Korean inability to reach its forces. North Korea currently fields a variety of missiles capable of covering South Korea and even reaching Japan. The number of different missiles in testing, yet ones that are overlapping in capabilities, points to an immature program that has an urgent need to find the right missile design. It currently has only one type of missile that's been tested and could theoretically reach Guam, but given its size, it may also be too small to have enough range to reach it. Furthermore, test record so far points towards a far from complete and working design. Even if missiles could reach Guam, delivering several conventional warheads would not cause any significant damage. For North Korea to truly endanger US forces there, a nuclear warhead would need to be used. But hard data concerning Korean nuclear arsenal is not disclosed by anyone. Various institutes project Korea to have between several and a few dozen warheads. US intelligence reports claim all warheads tested so far were low yield. Another even longer-range missile is theoretically available to North Korea, but it may have not been tested yet, and thus would likely be unsuccessful if used. Against such an attack, the US could try to defend with its GBI interceptors. While efficiency of such interception is questionable, the very low numbers of North Korean missiles would mean there's a realistic chance all or most of them would get intercepted. For effects of a successful nuclear detonation, feel free to watch my Global Nuclear Showdown video. Getting back to the intermediate range Korean missiles, they would face the US SM-3 interceptor missiles. The number of available Aegis ships with SM-3 and fairly low number of Korean missiles suggests most, if not all, missiles might get intercepted. Of course, a single nuclear warhead may be enough to make a serious dent in US Guam-based capability. If the Air Force base in Guam gets hit, the other airstrip, the X-Air Base, would be able to operate normally. There are also 3 more islands near Guam, and their civilian airports could get reconfigured into military air bases. US trying to inflict damage to North Korea could rely on its stockpile of cruise missiles. Considering the relatively small country and limited number of industrial and priority military targets, US cruise missiles could deliver a lot of damage. Yet, due to little to no US Air Force involvement and limited number of US Navy ships near Korea, it would take months until better part of the arsenal is used up. During that time, it is likely US Navy would perform strike sorties from the carriers, as well as Air Force bomb runs by US bombers. Most of North Korean Air Force would get trapped on the ground due to cruise missile strikes. Better part of their air defense network would be crippled due to Korean old radar tech and not very relocatable SAMs. Finally, a few hundred US Navy fighters would fly in and protect the Air Force's bombers. US could also try and haul some Air Force fighters from Guam, but they would need ample refueling. Probably only the cutting-edge fighters would be used to maximize the effort. Due to bases also launching bombers, there wouldn't be much space for tankers as well. While initial US preparation to get the carriers close by would take months or even half a year, once the bombing campaign starts, it is likely Korean air defenses would be halved within weeks. Carriers would rotate in and out of several months-long deployments. Even without the US Air Force, US Navy on its own would still prevail fairly easily. The technological and quality edge the US enjoys is simply overwhelming. North Korea also lacks force multiplier platforms such as AWACS, Elint and jammer planes. The reason why North Korea has such obsolete armaments is its international isolation. Its last friend, so to speak, was the Soviet Union up until 1990, and even then Korea mostly got fairly old armaments from Soviets. For the last quarter of a century, North Korea was in isolation, where no country found it worthwhile helping it militarily or through technology transfer. Small and relocatable targets, such as military vehicles, would probably survive in great numbers, but they would on their own be of little consolation to North Korea. After all, its whole industry would be left in ruins after a year-long bombing campaign. Given the massive technology edge it enjoys, US aircraft losses would be very low. On the sea, North Korea has no real means of seriously endangering the US fleet, as it just doesn't have assets that could effectively locate far-away targets. Korean surface fleet is mostly made up of attack boats. They would have a rough time venturing far out into the ocean, where they would be tracked and destroyed before reaching any sort of target. By far the biggest threat to US would be possible submarine attacks. Even though it features nearly obsolete technology, Korea does have a large submarine fleet, but most of it is composed of midget-sized submarines with minuscule submerged endurance. To even get to the US carriers, those submarines would need to charge their batteries at snorkel depth several times, where they are most exposed. US does have the luxury of operating its carriers from some distance, thus protecting them. If some subs manage to reach the deep seas undetected, a less careful US ship might stumble onto them and get threatened. While some US casualties are possible, they would be unlikely as long as the US stays away from Korean shores. Another US option would be using its amphibious assault fleet to actually land troops on North Korean shores, but that would inevitably lead to numerous US casualties. Not only would Korean attack boats and submarines be much more suited to the task, but Korean coastal anti-ship batteries could also be used. Mountains near the sea would mean high-positioned radars, which might help Koreans find approaching targets and coordinate their strikes. Finally, whatever forces US could land, either by sea or air, would be dwarfed by the Korean defenders. If the assault comes after a year-long bombing campaign, Koreans would be lacking a good deal of their heavy fire support, but they would still have plenty of tanks and artillery to engage the lightly armed disembarked troops. Not to mention the sheer numerical superiority of Korean troops. It would be an uphill battle for the US. While North Korea would have to cover hundreds of kilometers of its coastline, once the US does land, it could rearrange its forces and concentrate them for a counterstrike. The mountains would pose problems for both sides, making quick maneuvers impossible. Given the large distances, turnaround times for US supply vessels and fresh troops would be very slow. US would help itself by using transfer dock ships. Even with all the air superiority, it is unlikely US would be able to get enough troops and heavy support in time to fight the order of magnitude more numerous opponent. In a scenario where US does keep its troops in South Korea and Japan, a war with North would lead to more casualties than in the previous air campaign scenario, as US troops in South Korea would be well in range of Korean ballistic missiles. US does have some anti-ballistic missile protection based there, but it wouldn't stop most of the missiles. Also, using US Navy ships to protect the US Army and Air Force there would be dangerous, as that would also put those ships in danger, and it would take weeks until enough ships are ready and in position, well after most missiles are fired. On the other hand, having all those bases available to US would mean a much quicker air campaign, as most of the US Air Force might could also join in and basically double the US firepower. Going for an amphibious assault using the additional staging areas, US could possibly secure a beachhead, but only after several to 1 casualty ratio, possibly topping the Vietnam casualties a few times over. But it would take well over a year, and expanding the territory gain would take more time still, well over the time limit of this scenario. Conquering North Korea might be possible, but only after US economy switches to a war production mindset, and only after some years and numerous casualties. Basically, it wouldn't be worth it. Realistically, any such war would probably end up involving the South Korea as well, but that's another story. For now, it suffices to say that the US would be a clear winner. If you're interested in learning about Korean history and how it led to the split between the two Koreas, the Great Courses Plus offers some great lectures on that very topic. Professor Craig Benjamin, PhD, offers over 3 hours worth of lectures on Korean history as part of a course on Foundations of Eastern Civilization. The Great Courses Plus is a subscription on-demand video learning service with top-notch lectures and courses from top professors from the Ivy League universities and experts from places like the National Geographic or the Smithsonian. They provide unlimited access to a huge library of 7,000 video lectures about anything that interests you. Science, math, history, literature, or even how to cook, play chess, or become a photographer. The Great Courses Plus is giving viewers a great offer of a free 1-month trial, and their plans start as low as $14.99 per month. You can click on the link below or go to thegreatcoursesplus.com/Binkov to start your free trial today. There are no tests or schedules to keep. You can learn at your own pace, and new subjects and lecturers are added every month. So to learn more about any point in history and support my channel, start your free 1-month trial and enjoy the courses on your TV, laptop, or even your phone. As usual, feel free to subscribe, and if you really like my videos, you can support me through the Patreon crowdfunding website.